Okay, this tutorial is to demonstrate the green screen effect and keying out of the green screen and for the assignment for the green screen assignment in the advanced post-production class. I got Premiere open. I'm going to do a new project to import the footage. Browse to my location. I'm just going to make this short because I'm getting really sick of doing tutorials. I hate them and I hate everything, and I'll be quitting my job after this, so I won't see you guys next semester. Go under motion control, hit choose, type in the project name here. I'm just going to call it green screen project. That was a joke. I'm not going to quit my job. I'm not a quitter, unlike other people that I know. I don't know what that means. Okay, we're going to bring in the footage. So I'm just going to bring in this entire folder. Okay, so footage is in here. We've got 3 clips that I've posted in here. They're both pretty much the same. One of these, he gets kind of frustrated and throws the book down, and the other one, he just kind of keeps doing the same thing the whole time. So it doesn't really matter which one you use. I'll try this first clip here. I'm going to drag this to a timeline, create a timeline out of it. And now that I've got that clip in there, I'm going to add the other clip that we're going to composite underneath it. So I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to select this. Deleted the audio there by holding down Option. Let me do that again. Hold down Option, drag over the audio, delete it. Hold down unless you want to keep the audio. Select that that file there, and Option arrow up will move it up. Now I'm going to grab the the shot that we're going to composite into this. I'm going to grab the video off of this and drag and drop it down inside. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to get these things so they're lined up and timed up about at the same speed. Okay, so I'm going to get these so they're timed up so they match timing here. This was shot on that motion control device and had the exact move programmed into it. Had a little goof up where the camera movement didn't quite match at the beginning and end, but it was locked together pretty well for about 6 solid seconds. I'm not sure what happened with the motion control device. I'm going to increase the scale of this. Hold mouse over the dark area here and scroll up. I'm going to mouse over this, hold down Command or Control on the PC and scroll up, and it will make these larger, and then you have access to your opacity lines here. If you don't have opacity lines here, you go up to the little toolbar and check mark show video keyframes, and it will show these lines here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these down here. I'm just going to drag this over to the side a little bit and look at this clip. I'm going to play through it until I see the camera just barely start to move. Grab my playhead. And right there where the camera's looking here at the bottom, I'm going to see right when this thing barely starts moving. Right there, barely starts moving. And I'm going to cut that off. Hit Apple K, cut it off, and delete that excess there. And then I'm going to go to this clip and do the same thing. Get it to the exact same point here, right when the camera barely starts moving. Right there. Right there. About there. Just have to get it kind of approximate here. So I'm going to cut off that excess in the beginning of that. Drag this over. So now you got the approximate start of both of these lined up. But the way you can really tell is grab this top opacity, drag it down about 50%, and then you can see the doors up here kind of lining up, and you see they're kind of misaligned. But what I'm going to do, where this comes in sync is somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to get this in the middle, right there where we got a clear shot of the door, and look how offset they are. So I'm going to highlight this top clip here, and I'm going to grab both of these actually, move them over so I have some room to nudge, because I want room to nudge this clip here. I might have to nudge it to the left, so I'm going to get right about there where I can see both the doors. I'm going to highlight the top clip and get it to where this guy's not blocking it, and then I'm going to highlight the top clip, hold down Apple, or I believe it's Control on the Mac, and you do left and right arrows. And you'll see I'm nudging there, but that's the wrong direction because the door is getting further apart. So I'm going to nudge over till these doors are lined up. Nudge this clip over so the timing is right. More. Right there, looks like it's perfectly lined up. Now I'm going to play through this, but like I said, there's a little bit of mistiming at the beginning. You see the doors separate. We're going to fix that in After Effects. And as we play through, you'll see the doors here line up, and they stay lined up for a little while. It stays in sync. The motor stays in sync there. And you'll see it still staying in sync over here, looking pretty good, until toward the end, then it separates again for some reason. Not sure why I did that. But that's about enough of the shot. We see Graham going to walk out of the shot there, so that's enough of that shot. I'm going to cut it off there, get it to the length that we want, get it to where we want the shot to begin. Actually, right here is a good point. So we're left with these two shots here. I'm going to leave the opacity down on that one, highlight both these clips. We're going to right click on them, replace them with After Effects composition, and send it to After Effects. When you send this over to After Effects, it's going to carry the opacity information over to After Effects of this clip as well. Okay, I'm going to save this After Effects, green screen, whatever you want to call it. I'll create a composition and bring my two layered clips in here. First thing we're going to do with this is we're going to get these things, we're going to compensate for this portion that goes out of sync here with the camera by doing some animation on the video, on the top video here, on the green screen layer. So I'm going to highlight the green screen layer. I'm going to go down under transform. We're going to find out right about where that goes out of sync here. So I'm going to play through this till I find the point where these two things go into sync here. And they go into sync right about there. So I'm going to go down and turn on the keyframe, position keyframe, the top clip of the green screen clip, and add a position there. Then I'm going to find out where that kind of finishes going out of sync and add another keyframe. Right about there is where it kind of finishes. And I'm going to add another keyframe right there. And then I'm just going to arrow to the left. I'm going to hit my arrow to the left, and it will physically move this frame over to the left. You can hold down Shift left, and it'll move it like 5 pixels at a time instead of 1 pixel at a time. So you can see that it's actually grabbed that and it has moved it over to the left. Several pixels to the left. Like I said, if you can use the arrow, nudge it over to the left, or right, or up or down. If you hold down Shift, it'll do it like 5 pixels at a time instead of 1 pixel at a time, which does it faster. So now if we do page down, kind of advance to the timeline, you can see it kind of keeps those doors in sync, keeps the shot in sync. For the most part. It has to just be pretty close. It doesn't have to be exactly accurate. I'm going to right click on this as well, make it kind of feather into it, and do easy ease, so it kind of eases in, eases out of it. Same as this one here, just to make it a little, so it doesn't look so computery, it'll look a little bit more natural. As you play through it. Won't be like perfect, but it will be pretty close to it, and that's just so it kind of matches the move, the camera, and then it will look a little more natural. So we've now compensated for that first out of sync move there. And let's go back and see if we got it all. Go back here a little bit more. It goes way out of sync there, so we're going to have to fix that as well. Find the point where it starts moving again. Right about there is where it starts moving. So I'm going to hit a keyframe, add a keyframe there, and arrow back to where it kind of stops moving again until it stops going out of sync. Right about there is where it stops. So I'm going to add one more keyframe there. I'm just going to grab this time, it'll be quicker. I'm just going to grab it and move it over and hold down Shift until it gets lined up It's wrong way. Gonna go this way. Until those doors are lined up. I'm on adaptive resolution, so I'm recording the screen so it doesn't look as good. But now I can hold down my shift key, arrow over till we get it about into place, and now let go of my shift key and just kind of fine tune, nudge it into place there. There we go. So that keyframe is just defined. And it works at the beginning because it's holding still, so that's fine. And then it looks like it locks in pretty well. And it stays that way until the end. And there the windows start going out of sync again. The end, so we're going to compensate for that. And it starts. Hitting page down right now to find out. I'm watching these windows right here to see when it goes out of sync. Right there it starts going out of sync, so that's the spot to add a keyframe. And then find out where kind of the extremes where this thing stops going out of sync. When it stops moving, it stops coasting, right about there, right about there. Add a keyframe, and now put the window on that keyframe back where it belongs there to sync it up. So arrow over, arrow up, until these things line up. Right about there. Now those things look like they line up pretty good. And then they coast out of sync a little bit one more time. And right there is where it ends. So I'm going to add another keyframe. Now arrow to the left. Get those things lined up on that keyframe. And what that's going to do is it's going to take this green screen picture and animate it and move it around just slightly to kind of keep it matched up with the background plate. So once that's done, now I'm going to go and turn the opacity off on this clip so we can start doing some green screening here. So now what I'm left with, now I've got this clip here, and we're going to start doing some compositing here. First thing I'm going to do, so in this shot we wouldn't even need to start till right about here anyway, because it's he's looking up at the camera. So we're going to fix this whole thing though. I'm going to go up to my mat here. I'm going to select this clip, and we're going to create what's called a garbage mat. So first part of green screening is we're going to get rid of all this extra crap that we do not need. I'm going to animate it as well, since this is a shot that's moving. And I'm going to zoom this up later on, so I'm not worried about the stuff at the bottom very much. And create a little bit of a garbage mat there. And we're going to animate this because it kind of the background moves, so we need to change where this mask exists. Arrow down my mask, turn on the keyframing for my mask path, and we're going to go through about 3 seconds, and then grab these keyframes and readjust to keep all that crap out of the picture there. I'm going to go through about another 3 seconds. Grab this and just make sure that he stays in it the whole time. As it dollies. So he's staying in it just fine. The stuff on the bottom is going to end up being cut out. Move that over so it gets rid of that shadow on the side there. That'll probably key out anyway, but just in case. Go to the end, and it moves over a little bit more, it pans a little bit more, so we're going to keep grabbing it the entire time. And I'm going to hit my selection tool, deselect the keyframes, grab these 2 keyframes and bring them down for the last part here. Like I said, we're going to zoom up past this stuff anyway when the shot finishes. And there we have an animated mask. You can see the mask moving as you play through it. You can see the mask moving with him and keeping Graham in frame the whole time. Now that we've created our garbage mat, we're going to add, I'm going to go over this the search area here for the effects and grab key light. I'm going to drag that and drop it to this clip. Then under effects you'll find the key light. Now a few things that we're going to do here to start is we're going to select a color to key out. We're going to, right here on screen color, we're going to hit the eyedropper, come over here, and we're going to select kind of a nice average green area here. Click on it, and it will get rid of a good portion of the green there. We turn on the layer below it now, you'll kind of see what it's the effect that it's starting to have here. It's going to have him composited in the shot where you have 2 grams. You're going to walk it behind him, and it's going to match the dolly shot. So, but to do the key first, I'm going to turn off the bottom layer so I can really see what I'm keying out. Now up here in this drop-down menu, you can view your matte here. You go down to screen matte. This is going to show what it's leaving out. Black is what it's going to leave out, and white is what it's going to leave in. Gray means it's going to basically be transparent. The more close to white it is, the more it will block out. The closer it is to black, it'll see through. So we're going to play with this a little bit. You can see here that we still have a little bit of noise in the black. So we want to get rid of the noise in the black and the noise in the white. We want this to be as black as possible, and this to be as white as possible. So I'm going to mess with the screen gain first of all. This is kind of boosting, it's gaining the color amount, so it's allowing more green to be keyed out. And you see as you slide that up, it's going to hopefully take more green out. It'll add more green range there. Shift question mark to zoom back out. Let's look down here. It's looking pretty clean except for around the table a little bit. And the black is now actually looking pretty clean there. But now we're going to start working on the white, which is here. This is luminance, is based off luminance basically. The balance here is going to help the white part of the matte and bring what's going to be left in. It's going to bring that in a bit more. So we're going to change the screen balance here. You don't want to go incredibly extreme with this because the more extreme you go, the more it's going to eat around the edges. So right there, it looks like it's starting to get a much better key. Got a little bit of noise down here, so let's try to bring up the balance even a little bit more. And looks like it's going to have trouble down here, so I'm not going to turn that up so extreme here. What we're going to end up doing is using another. We've got a somewhat decent key here. We click on the video behind and turn that back on to final result. Kind of see what we're left with so far. And it's still looking pretty decent there. So, but we're going to clean up that matte just a little bit more. I'm going to go back to screen matte. Now that we kind of got the balance and the gain in about the right area, we're going to go down and start playing with the matte. Here's this little drop down. It's called screen matte. 2 most common features in here probably that are going to be used will be the clip black and clip white. We don't really need to work on clip black because this helps add to the black area. It takes little dots of noise and kind of cleans it up. And the clip white will do the same thing but to the white. But if we clip the white here, we're going to pull this back, and you're just going to barely pull it back enough to where you just see that noise pretty much all gone here. So I'm going to pull it back. It looks like it really kind of disappears around 90, and let me try 92. Find where it kind of starts to fall off. The less you have to do this, the better. The cleaner key you'll have. 93 still works. 94. 94 is starting to introduce a teeny bit of noise, so probably like 93, 92. Let's do 92. And now we've got a good clean matte there. So now I can go back to final result. And so we've clipped into the actual matte. That cleans up the matte a bit. A couple of other little features you have on cleaning up the matte. Turn this to full resolution so you can kind of see what we're doing here. But if you go up close here, you'll notice around the head you got a little bit of green glow, most likely. So to get rid of that, what we're going to do is a couple different things. We've got 3 different things we can do here. But we've got screen, shrink, grow here. We're going to shrink the matte here. It's going to eat into the matte. If we turn this on to screen matte, and look what this does. As you grab shrink and grow, you drag it to the left, you'll notice it eats into the matte. Undo. So it eats into the matte. And if you do grow, it'll expand on the matte. We usually want to shrink it. I'm going to shrink it by a pixel, just so it kind of barely eats into it. Oops, that added to it. -1. I'm going to eat it, and that's probably a little too much anyway. So I'm just going to do -0.5 and eat into it just a teeny bit. Let's go back to this. You really need to be looking at the final result here. I'm going to go back to 0. So as I hit 0, watch right here what happens as I hit enter. So you kind of added that green right around the edge there. So I'm going to go back and undo and go back to -5. -5. And now the soften will actually soften the edges as well. So go to screen matte, you grab soften and crank that way up. You'll see it will blur the edges here and make them really soft edge. And usually I need to do this by like a pixel or two at the most. Let's try 1 pixel. That's probably going to be even too much. I'm just going to do 0.5 on softness as well. And let's take a look at it. Final result. This will kind of blend it in a little bit more. I'm going to shrink that matte just a teeny bit more. I'm going to do -1. Kind of even that green. There we go. Now it's starting to look like a good clean key right there. That looks about right. Now if you need to, it doesn't look like we need to in this instance. Well, there's a little bit green over on this side. Well, maybe that might be the plant, but you can use your edge color correction, which will correct the edges if you get green. This is basically what's called a spill suppressor. It suppresses the green around the edges. You can enable edge color correction. Probably not going to need to do this on here, but and then under color balancing, brightness will actually add kind of a teeny bit of a backlight or highlight around the edge of the matte. There's kind of an extreme example there. Put it at 47. If you just add like, let's just go down to like 6 and kind of show what that does. Okay, so now watch as I go to 0. Watch around the edges here. 0. You'll really notice it over here. Watch as I hit 0. Enter. And undo. Watch as I undo. Not much. It's a little too subtle. Let's go 10. It'll kind of brighten up the edges and make it add a little bit of a backlight effect to it, which sometimes will make it look not so crisp and fine around the edges. But I'm just going to add about 6 there. Probably doesn't even need it, but let's take a look at this key so far. And this key is looking pretty good so far. You play through it. It's looking pretty natural. As the dolly moves with them. Okay. So we're pretty close on the key, and as you play through this, you'll notice he comes up to himself, looks over his shoulder, and then walks away. Now we've gotten rid of a portion of the table here, and we're going to kind of restore that and bring it back. So the last part is going to be actual rotoscoping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this top clip here, and I'm going to hit Apple D, Control D to duplicate. I'm going to get rid of the mask that's already on it. So you can see all the other crap over here. Now we're just going to create a mask for this table here. So what I'm going to do is add a couple more extra keyframes over here because the table ends up kind of bulging out a little bit around the edge here. Go to the edge of the table. A couple here, and you'll see why I'm adding these later. So we need to reshape it for the shape of the table. And I'm going between my hand tool and my pen tool here. Pen tool shortcut is G, so I'm hitting H and G to kind of go back and forth between the tools. So now we've cropped that table out. We're going to have to animate this. We're going to have to animate this to kind of keep the table. Now one thing that I've got in here as well is I've got the effects of the green screen on the top layer as well. If you don't want that, you can take it up, but then you have to do really close. Pay attention to your rotoscoping here. If I delete that, then you're going to see kind of this green spill come back to the table down here. So I'm just going to leave that on right now. But we're going to animate this mask here though. So and what I'm going to do is add keyframe on the beginning, go down about, let's do it like every second. And then you're going to have to reposition this to fit the table. You have to go up close and refit this to resize this thing to fit the table here, like about every second. And this will probably take a little bit. Then I'm going to pull this out, see if I've got it at the edge of the table. I do, I've got it at the very edge there. Advance another second and then do it again. About it. Right here, it doesn't, you don't have to really rotoscope it back in because this is still over the top of the green screen, and the green screen took care of that. Grab all those keyframes, move them over. There we go. And I'm going to keep doing this until I got it from beginning to end. So I'll be back in a second. Okay. So now I've done the mat. I'm going to go through. You got to go through kind of frame by frame. Just sit here and hitting page down and watch that thing and see if the mat goes off at all, and then compensate and fix it and add keyframes along the way. Once that looks pretty good and you've gone all the way through, you can go under mask and do a little bit of mask feather, probably like a 2-pixel feather, just to kind of soften up the edges of your mask there, so it doesn't look so harsh. And then after that, you are pretty close to finish here. Now, as we play through, it does the dolly shot. It moves both shots together. It does look like it needs to be a little softened and kind of fixed over there, but good enough for now. And as we play through, it'll cut to the part where he comes walking up to himself and looks down at himself. And the key looks pretty good. Now we just got these kind of floating legs here. So the last thing we need to fix really on this shot is we're going to highlight all these shots here, right click and pre-comp. I'm going to pre-compose these things, hit OK. And as it was one pre-comp, we're going to size up the whole thing, all the clips together, and turn up the scale just slightly, and grab this and move it down to minimize the amount that we have to zoom up. So actually I'm going to try that at about 103% so we don't zoom up too far. Grab this and move down there. It's starting to come out of the top a little bit, so we do have to zoom that a teeny bit more, so probably like 104. 104. There we go. And now his legs are cut out of the shot there, so now you don't see the floating legs anymore. And once you fine-tune that rotoscoping spline there, that should be pretty good, but that's kind of the tutorial on the green screen. Let me save this, render it in Premiere, and play back. Okay, I'm going to play this back now and take a look at the shot here. And looks pretty good. The dolly moves moving, and the composite's in sync with the background. Looks over his shoulder, walks away. Maybe the only thing you could do is you could stabilize that pre-comp as well. You could go back into After Effects and do a warp stabilizer on it, take out the warp and make it a smooth motion dolly, and that would kind of fix the end portion. Right here, this kind of little camera jiggle at the end if you needed to smooth that out more. For the most part, that looks pretty good. Everything looks pretty in sync. The dolly, the pans on the camera move at the same time. Yeah, it looks pretty good except for that little camera jiggle at the end. So if you want to smooth that out, I'm going to take that end, do the warp stabilizer here. Just right click on it, edit original. We'll open it back up in After Effects. And I'm going to stabilize that same way as I've shown it before. So I'm going to stabilize that. I'll come back and look at the finished shot with a warp stabilizer. Once again, I'm just going to stabilize based on position, not on position, rotation, and warp as well. We're just going to, since I've pre-comped this, I can just stabilize the whole thing. I'll highlight the layer, go up to animation, choose warp stabilizer, add a warp stabilizer to the page, let it analyze, and then when I'm done, I'm going to choose smooth motion. I'm just going to do smooth motion and select position. So smooth motion, position, and that should look pretty good. And we'll come back and look at the final effect there. All right, so now that it's I've saved it in After Effects, quit After Effects, and rendered this in Premiere, and play it back. It's a little stroby because I'm doing screen capture. But I didn't do a perfect job on the table, but that's okay. You guys get the concept. But now it plays back, and let's see the stabilization. Smooth that out a little bit. That looks a bit better at the end. So the stabilization did smooth out that kind of camera jerk there. So yeah, so it plays back. Looks pretty good. We've got Graham coming over and looking over his own shoulder and looking at himself, and the effect looks amazing and is ready for a major Hollywood studio to pick this up and make a movie out of it. There you go. So have fun doing it, and doesn't matter if you have fun doing it or not because it's required to do it. So if you want a grade for it, you'll do it. Yeah, I like being snarky. It's a stupid word. Okay. Goodbye.